Hello, everyone. Today we're going to look at solving problems that involve a square root. So, number one, the distance in miles that the lookout of a submarine can see is approximately d equals 1.22 square root h, where h is the height in the feet above the surface of the water. How far would a submarine periscope have to be above the water to locate a ship that's 6 miles away? So, we're going to put 6 in for d. So that means 6 equals 1.22 square root h. And we want to solve for h. So in order to solve for h, we're going to divide both sides by 1.22 first. Which gives me 4. So I'm going to leave that as a fraction actually, because it's not a nice number. Equals the square root h. And then the opposite of taking the square root is to square. So I'm going to square both sides of my equation, which means on my calculator, I'm going to enter that as a fraction in parentheses squared. So I'm going to do the fraction 6 over 1.22, close my parentheses, and then square it. And I get 24.187044649. It tells me to round to the nearest tenth, so that's 24.2. And my units on this is feet. So now number 2, the voltage V in a circuit is given by V equals the square root of PR, where P is the power in watts and R is the resistance in ohms. If the voltage is 120 and the circuit produces 1500 watts, what is the resistance? So that means that 120 equals the square root of 1500 R. So in order to solve for R, here in this case, because everything's underneath the square root, I'm going to square both sides first. So 120 squared is 14,400, or I'm sorry, I looked at that wrong, 144,000 equals 1500 R, because the opposite of square root is squaring. Then I divide both sides by 1500. And I'm sorry, again, there's only 2 zeros there. I was right the first time. And R equals 9.6. B, suppose an electrical design circuit is 110 volts and the resistance is 10 ohms. How much power? So again, here I'm going to replace V with 110. And I'm going to replace R with 10. So it's 110 equals the square root of R times, or P times 10. So again, I still need to square both sides. So that's 121,000 equals R times 10, or P times 10, sorry. My P looks like an R. Divide both sides by 10. And my answer is 1210 volts. So I want you to pause and I want you to try number 3 and come back and check. Okay, so for number 3, part A, I'm going to substitute in 10 for T. So 10 equals square root of H over 4. I multiply both sides by 4 to eliminate the 4 in the denominator. So that gives me 40 equals the square root of H. I square both sides, and 1600 equals H. So it's 1600 feet. For B, I put in 6 for T, multiply both sides by 4, square both sides, and H equals 576 feet. So now I want you to pause and try numbers 4 and 5 and come back. Okay, so for number 4, I start off with my equation K equals 1/2 mv squared, and I want to get V by itself. So first I'm going to eliminate the 1/2. And I do that by multiplying both sides by 2. So that gives me 2k equals mv squared. I divide both sides by m. So now I have v squared equals 2k over m. The opposite of squaring is take square root. So V equals the square root of 2K over M. Number 5, I'm using this equation they gave me, and I know by reading it that B equals 6,000 and L equals 500. So I substitute 6,000 and 500, and I need to solve for D. So first I'm going to divide both sides by 500, which gives me 12. Then I'm squaring everything in parentheses there. So the opposite of squaring is taking the square root. So I have the square root of 12 equals D minus 4 over 4. I multiply both sides by 4. So I have 4 radical 12 equals D minus 4. I add 4. So my answer is 4 radical 12 plus 4. They wanted it to the nearest inch, so I just did that on my calculator, and I got 18 inches. So I want you to try the last 3 questions and come back and check. Okay, so number 6, I started by substituting in my L and my R. I then wanted to divide both sides by 35 pi because I want to isolate the radical. The opposite of taking square root is square. So I squared both sides, and then I squared 3.5, subtracted 12.25 from both sides, took square root, and I got H equals 11. For number 7, again, I substituted my information. First thing I did is simplify 26.9 times 3 squared. I then divided both sides by 42.1 and then squared both sides to get P equals 100.8. Number 8, to solve for R, I need to eliminate the 1/3, so I multiply both sides by 3. I then divided both sides by pi h, which gave me R squared equals 3V over pi h. I took square root of both sides, so R equals the square root of 3V over pi h. For B, I substituted my values. 16 pi divided by 4 pi gives me 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. Square root of 12 is 2 radical 3. So that's the end of our video today. If you have any questions, please ask me tomorrow during class.